The following program is sponsored by The Greek, Ely's Radio Shack dealer at 570 Altman in downtown Ely, and brought to you as a public service by Georgetown Media in Ely, Nevada. White Pine County Commission meeting, May 26, 2021.
Looks like it's 9 o'clock. I'm looking at it, right? Okay. Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday, May 26th regular scheduled meeting of the White Pine County Commission. And I didn't mute my phone right off the bat. Excuse me.
I just got done doing mine.
And I'm sorry about that. So anyway, welcome to the May 26th regular scheduled meeting of the White Pine County Commission. Would you all please stand and join us in the pledge? And Shane, would you join?
Certainly. Will you follow me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. As is the norm, the first item on our agenda is that we have a moment of silence for prayer, meditation, whatever anyone would like to do. So take this first moment to do whatever you like. Silence. Thank you. Okay, we'll now go into the meeting, and the first item that we have is public comment, and I see a full house today, so we'll strictly adhere to the 3 minutes. And if you hear somebody that's already stated your comments, I mean, we don't need repetition really, but everyone's welcome to speak, but we'll strictly adhere to the 3-minute conversation. So with that being said, is there anyone on the phone with public comment, Mike?
No, sir.
No one on the phone. Anyone in the audience with public comment, please come forward, state your name. Please come forward.
So for the record, Jose Noriega, District Ranger of the Forest Service. Just a couple of quick announcements heading into the long weekend. The Bird Creek Campground, which has been closed for several years, will be open tomorrow night for public use. There's still some touch-up work we have to do in it, and we worked all day yesterday and will this afternoon again. But the gates are going to be open so people can go in there. One other heads up, anyone that's going to use the Ward Mountain Campground, our well went down again. So we are currently preparing an emergency contract to pull the pump and see if we can get that fixed as soon as possible. So anyone going up there, please plan on taking water with you. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience with public comment, please come forward, state your name. Anyone's welcome, whatever you'd like to speak to. Anyone? Anyone on the phone line? No one on the phone and no last call for the audience, no one in the audience, so we are gonna go ahead. I'm sorry. Now it's your-
No, you're not. No, you're not. I'm used to you. These people aren't.
How could that happen?
Mr. Chairman, to date, I've not seen anything in regard to the county pulling its support for the Heritage Park. Your primary concern should be child safety. You're ignoring the facts. And I've yet to see anything on your agenda. Mr. Chairman, on your agenda item 1C4, you're to consider possible action on several items related to revenues and departments. I did not see anything related to the Victims Fund identified in any of the departments. I pay thousands in taxes to support all of those departments. I am a victim and I want equal protection under the law. I want to be compensated for the harm I've suffered. You gave free golf to your friends and relatives, discounted water rates for the golf course, fire sale of county property. Now you can compensate a Vietnam veteran victim for the harm I've endured. For what the county pays for legal fees, police, courts, juvenile, public defender, etc., your return stinks. You need to address that. Mr. Chairman, on your agenda, item 2C1A, you're to consider removing the GED high school graduate requirements for a seasonal county worker. I do not know all the facts, nor the person it may affect. Minimum standards must be maintained, and education should be promoted and encouraged. I am victimized constantly by unqualified city-county officials. The brain drain needs to stop, or get rid of the HR department to save the taxpayer thousands and address our real problems. Mr. Chairman, on your agenda item 2C2G, you're to consider approval of resolution 2021-37 to utilize $24,800 to cover the increased cost of the public health officer. That needs to be denied. Take the money from Commissioner Bullis' salary, since he caused the problem of the initial public officer resigning, and which cost the county a mere $100 a month. We need accountability in this community. Mr. Chairman, the county needs to solicit a newspaper. We have a lot of things happening in this community, and we're paying more attention to sports, which is good, but we need to know what's going on in this community, and that's failing fast. Mr. Chairman, your planning commission continues to selectively enforce the established ordinances and does not act on violations presented to them. They selectively enforce the law under color of law. They need to go. Also, they continue to ignore the request to use the sound system. County paid thousands of dollars. Some speak in monotones and cannot be heard. I want to remind you that they are in violation of Nevada open meeting law, which allows aid for those who have difficulty in hearing. I'm telling those people all the time. I'm telling you, turn on the sound system or get rid of that particular entity. I've told you in the past that they selectively enforce the law. Here you have a city councilman, no special use permit. This is in the city. Then we moved out in the county. Then we have Mr. Bullis' office. You're blocking the sidewalk. City rules say minimum 5 feet wide on commercial areas.
Okay, George, your 3 minutes are up, and I appreciate your comments.
Can I get some information from you?
We'll do the
I've
best
been
we-
months here, years.
We'll do the
I'm
best.
not getting nothing.
Thank you.
It's not good enough.
Thank you again. Okay, is there any other public comment?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Chairman, I received a letter from the city of Ely. It's really short. I passed it out, but would you like me to read it into the record?
Please do.
Okay, Chairman Howe and honorable commission members, in regards to your May 26, 2021 agenda item, and this is our 11 o'clock item today, concerning Steptoe Park, this letter is to inform you that the faded stop sign at this location has been replaced. There were never two. The burned out street light at Steptoe Park will be replaced the week of June 1st through the 4th, 2021. Thank you sincerely, Jennifer Lee, City Clerk.
And James, you handed us a letter from the hospital. Should that be read in the comment, or should we just, it's available?
It's with relation to the fire district agenda item, so you can, but that's something we can discuss
Okay.
when we get to that agenda item.
I just thought I'd ask. Okay, we'll deal with that. Is there any other public comment on the phone? No? In the audience? No? So we'll go ahead and we'll move on to page 2, item A. It's a 9 o'clock update on the Cross Tie project. Item 1 is discussion update for 500 kV transmission line in White Pine County. The cross tie project, Richard Stuhan, Trans Canyon.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for your time this morning. So I'm with a company called Trans Canyon, and we have a new proposed 500 kV transmission line project that we'd like to introduce to you today. I'll give you a little bit of background on who Trans Canyon is. So if you turn to page 1. So Trans Canyon is an independent developer of electric transmission infrastructure. It's focused on the 11 western states. It has its lineage in Berkshire Hathaway Energy and Pinnacle West Capital Corporation, which is the parent company of Arizona Public Service. Unlike some developers, we are in the game for the long term. So we understand when we propose projects in communities that we need to be a long-term steward of those communities and maintain relationships in those areas. If we move to page 2, this just gives you a little bit of a diagram. You can see Pinnacle West, parent APS on the left, and you see Berkshire Hathaway Energy on the right, and then you see Trans Canyon is a 50-50 joint venture of a company called Bright Canyon Energy and Berkshire Hathaway Energy US Transmission. So we can draw from the lineage of our affiliate utilities. If we go to page 3, this one is just high level, illustrates that through our affiliates, we have extensive experience in permitting, constructing, owning, and operating large transmission infrastructure. We participate in the transmission planning committees, and are both in Berkshire Hathaway and in Pinnacle West, strong credit rating companies to support development of projects like Crosstie. So any questions on that before we move on? So page 5, I'll give you a little bit of a project description. So Crosstie is a 500 kV alternating current transmission line that would originate in the Clover substation near Mona, Utah, and would terminate at the Robinson Summit substation near the Ely area in White Pine County. The project's approximately 214 miles long as proposed. We're currently targeting an in-service date of late 2026. The overall investment we're estimating at $667 million. And then you see here kind of a breakdown in this chart of jurisdictions, cross main agencies, that sort of thing. A couple of pages we'll dive in a little deeper to White Pine County. So page 6, you can see the overall proposed route. And again, originate the Clover substation towards the right edge or eastern edge of the map, and then following the dark line across Utah into Nevada, crossing through the Humboldt-Tioga National Forest, and then ultimately terminating at the Robinson Summit substation. We go on to page 7, and we're still kind of high level, talking about high level regional benefits. The purpose of this transmission line is to create a strong interconnection between the Pacificor system in Utah and the Nevada energy system in Nevada. Increasing ties helps improve reliability, the ability to move energy created from various generation sources to markets throughout the West. It provides it's 1,500 megawatts bi-directional, so it can move energy east to west or west to east, dependent on need. And some of the benefits that we're seeing is it increases access to resources like Wyoming wind, and it also, going the other direction, can help move excess desert Southwest solar to the east. And let's see here. I'm going to read all of this. We go to page 8. We've zoomed into White Pine County to help give you a little better picture. One key point I'd like to make is that we have maximized the paralleling of existing transmission lines in designated corridors of the Bureau of Land Management and other agencies. That's not to say there isn't some deviations here and there due to on-the-ground conditions, but this is the routing as proposed. I think it's important to explain that we're at the front end of this process. We've submitted our right-of-way request to the Bureau of Land Management and the U.S. Forest Service, and we would anticipate that they will start the formal NEPA process, developing an environmental impact statement probably early next year. I do have in the back of the audience a couple folks from the Ely District Office and from the Humboldt-Hyobe. So if there's any questions that they might be able to answer on process, I'm sure they'll be happy to step forward. Any questions on this map?
Are you tying into some of the Gonder station?
It will not
Or is
tie,
it, how is that passing through? Because it shows,
it does not tie into the Gonder substation. It passes very, very close to. Being an alternating current line, it could theoretically be tied into Gonder, but that's not our plans today.
okay.
The capacity at the Robinson project, how much capacity can that station handle? Because we have a pump storage facility that's kind of on the same line, but I think it's important to know that Gonder is about maxed out. How much with your addition to Robinson substation and theirs, how much can they handle?
So first I'd say that Robinson Summit is not fully built out today. Nevada Energy has plans for a couple of projects known as Green Link North and Green Link West. You probably have heard of those. So between those and this project, there will be an expansion of that substation. So we don't envision any issues with the additional capacity that we can move across crosstie being limited at all by Robinson Summit.
I think my question is, if I understand all that green and all that other stuff, but with what you're doing, what Nevada Energy's doing, and now with what the pump storage is gonna do, even with the expansion, is that going to affect any one of the three companies, yours? So it'll all be okay after it's built out?
Yes,
Okay.
so it'll all be okay. And to be clear, get a little bit in the weeds for you, we have started up what's called the WEC Phase 2B study process. It's kind of the last leg in the WEC certifying the path rating for our project. And as part of that, they have a project review group, and numerous utilities throughout the West have signed up to participate and to look at all the potentially impacted systems, including Nevada Energy and others, again, throughout the West.
Would you tell me what your acronym WAC means?
Oh, I'm sorry. WEC is the Western Electric Coordinating Council.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, if we move on to page 9, you'll see here, again, I'll reiterate, we've tried to parallel existing lines wherever possible. We're generally located within either the West White Energy or Section 368 corridors or existing BLM corridors, as well as corridors on the Humboldt-Hyobe National Forest. You can see this table down here. breaks down the segment of the project that's in White Pine County. You can see here that of the 77.1 miles within White Pine County, the vast majority is on Bureau of Land Management land, about 64.2 miles, about 8.5 on the Humboldt-Tiobe, and about 4.5 on private within White Pine County. Any questions on that?
On the private lands, are they compensated? Is there a negotiation with those private properties?
Yes, that's right. We would have to seek to get a right-of-way or easement agreement that includes compensation. So, yeah, that's very much part of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions there? Okay, I'll talk briefly about local benefits. So the first would be the short-term benefits. There would obviously be construction workers within the county that'll need local services and pay local sales taxes and those sort of things, providing an economic benefit to the county. And our tax folks estimate that the property tax that we would pay on this project would total in the neighborhood of $3 million during the first year of operation. So hopefully that's a significant contribution. Again, local benefits, increasing the system reliability. Anytime, any utility will tell you, anytime you can put more wires in the air, you increase reliability because you create new paths. If one line goes out, now you have a new way to bring in electricity. So we see that as a good thing. And again, we've tried really hard to minimize the impacts by paralleling the existing transmission lines. If you go to page 11, you can see a simple bar chart of our project timeline. So we're starting what we call pre-NEPA activities, stakeholder outreach such as this. We anticipate having public meetings probably in the late summer, maybe in the late August, early September timeframe. We would anticipate having one of those public meetings here in Ely. And then, as I mentioned previously, the formal NEPA process we're anticipating will start up early next year. And will be led by the Bureau of Land Management, who has the lion's share of hosting the project right-of-way. It's being led out of the Fillmore Field Office in Utah, but the Ely District is participating because of the presence in their district in White Pine County, as is the Forest Service I mentioned for the 8.5 miles that we would propose to cross the Humboldt-Tiobe National Forest. We would anticipate beginning construction in late 2024 to early 2025 with about a 2-year build time frame to meet what we're currently targeting as a December 2026 in-service date.
Is that, I'm looking at this time, is that the time that you'll be in White Pine County, those 25 to 27, or is that starting in Utah and coming across? I'm trying to visualize how long you're gonna be in White Pine County.
Great question. I'd say at this point, we haven't contracted a construction firm. At this point, it's still early in the process. This proposed route, may change through the NEPA process. For example, White Pine County will be invited to participate in the NEPA process as a cooperating agency. So we would probably plan to bring in a construction contractor to start help us in the planning, maybe late 22, and then be able to answer that better for you. I'd say right now, I can't say whether we would start at the east end or the west end. That's just too early at this time. But as soon as we have that information, I'd be happy to pass that along.
Thank you.
Moving on to page 12, the next steps. We have begun habitat evaluation surveys, and we will be, we anticipate starting on-ground cultural resource pedestrian surveys as soon as next month. Again, just want to reiterate, we'll be working with the Bureau of Land Management and the United States Forest Service, plus other entities such as Juab County, Miller County, and White Pine County. And we'll continue to reach out and keep this body informed and inform the general public as the process moves forward. Is there any other questions or?
Anyone? I see none. I appreciate you coming in and giving us this.
If you'll indulge me, I just would like to offer BLM or Forest Service if there's anything you want to add, or if I've got it all covered. Okay, they're good. Great. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you for your willingness to keep the county informed, both its board and the citizens. We're kind of a close-knit group, and we do appreciate any updates anytime.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We are just past 9:15, so we have a 9:15 on page 2. It's a first reading of the proposed ordinances 518 and 519. Item proceed with the joint fire and county commission meeting. Anyone on the phone? None there. Anyone in the audience? Go ahead. Who's on there?
Gary Correa.
Okay, Gary, go for it.
My comments are regarding item, or agenda item number 2. I first want to say that the existing agreement with the city of Ely and the county is basically working well. I think the working relationship between the volunteers and the city of Ely fire is working okay. So my comments aren't regarding that situation, but I think basically my comments and my concerns are financial. I don't know whether, looking at the financials, I don't know whether it's sustainable to continue with the way that things are going. And the thought of a public and private partnership is intriguing, and I think that could be some real opportunities to save money and maybe even improve services with this MedX. So I hope that you'll give that some serious consideration to look at. And like I said, if the agreement is worked out well, and that opens up some real good possibilities. I have a second issue that I'd like to bring up and put on the radar. We have a real issue in the Baker area as far as the number of EMTs. That has become even a bigger problem since Miller County on the Utah side has pulled their ambulance from Estville. Right now, the Baker ambulance is being called out for runs both on the Utah-Nevada side, which is an area approximately by 50 miles long by 30 miles long. And right now we have 2 EMTs that are on call to handle that, and that's not sustainable either. There needs to be a conversation between White Pine County and Miller County on how to address that problem. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your comment, Gary. You do have a lot of background in this, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, is there any other public comment before we start? None on the phone, Mike? Okay, none in the audience? George? I wouldn't forget you twice.
Another first, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I've got an ongoing concern in regards to whether or not your fire chief has inspected the ingress, egress located on Avenue D and Highway 93 north of the Holiday Inn. Again, that design is poor at best, hazardous, does not meet ADA requirements, and poses a problem for larger emergency equipment when they need to respond.
This is about the 1000th time you brought this up, George.
And I'm gonna keep bringing it up until
And I'm
you,
gonna keep telling you, bring us something new, George, that's been inspected, the state highway, everybody's done it.
it
So it is what it is,
does
George.
not meet
It's-
code.
It's there, and that's
It
what,
does not meet
I'm not
code.
gonna
You have
argue
an
with you more about
obligation, Mr. Chairman. for
I'm not gonna
saying-
argue with you about it anymore. You
Good.
brought it up.
Good.
Give me
Let's
something new.
correct it.
Give me something new.
Let's correct it.
Give me something new. That's the last I'm gonna say about it.
I'm not gonna tell you again.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna keep coming back. until
Thanks,
it's
George.
corrected.
Thanks, George. Okay, any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on. So the first item we have on page 2 is discussion for possible action, the approval of FY 2021-2022 White Pine County Fire Protection District interlocal agreement, calculated amount, Elizabeth Francis, Finance Director, and Brett North, Fire Chief. Elizabeth?
Thank you. So this is the contract was in your backup. It's contract that we have to have because we're separate legal entities between the county and the fire district. And it governs how we provide financial services, human resources, legal services, maintenance services, and technology services to the fire district. And so I just plug the amounts into the formula annually and tell you what that amount is. This coming FY '22 will be $67,355. This is up approximately $10,000 from last year. There's always some increase. The majority of the increase came from their utilization of maintenance services in the various VFDs.
Any questions? Okay.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, motion by Travis,
Second.
second by Shane. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? That's unanimous. We'll move on to page 3, item 2, is discussion for possible action, the approval to select an option for emergency ambulance and fire services by selecting 1, a modified contract with the City of Ely to provide services through the City of Ely Fire Department, or 2, a contract with MedX to provide emergency ambulance services and offering a mutual aid agreement with the City of Ely to provide fire services on an as-needed basis. James?
Thank you. Do you want to adjourn? All right, so I want to give you a little bit of history about, how we got to this point. As everybody knows, we had a 5-year contract with the City of Ely. They canceled that contract, gave us notice. They were canceling it at the end of this year. We had negotiations. The initial offer by the city was to provide an additional, for the county to provide additional $200,000 to the city on top of the $150,000 we're already providing them. The backup material that we got showed that the cost of servicing the agreement was actually less than what we're already paying them. The other backup material we got showed that their expenses, their net expenses, were lower than it's ever been since they've been, at least for the information they provided us, as far back as they provided. So that's where we started. $200,000 was an unreasonable sum, which was acknowledged by all of the parties on the negotiating committee, including the city. We asked for a reasonable number. They basically refused to provide a counter or a real initial offer for a while, wanting us to counter. The way negotiations generally work is if you know that the original offer is unreasonable, we start with a reasonable one, and then we'll start talking counter. So since we weren't moving anywhere on that, we started looking at alternatives. So the alternative that we came up with was MedX providing the emergency medical services, which is the lion's share of what the city does for us now. And then we would have a mutual aid agreement, which is required by statute, that counties requesting enter into for fire, traffic accident with the City of Ely, and then we would pay them actual costs of what it costs them to respond to those individual situations that we need assistance on. What we would provide MedX, what is contemplated, is that we would provide MedX $75,000 a year, plus they would do the lion's share of the ambulance transports, get their revenues that way. And then we would pay the balance, and we'd have another $75,000 that is budgeted from the original contract to pay the city for as-needed fire and automobile accident services. So, the city did end up offering what I would consider a reasonable-ish offer, and that is that we pay them $150,000 as provided in the original contract, and then we would pay them an additional $50,000. That would be reduced dollar for dollar based on their revenues. So when we started this negotiation for the original contract, we provided the city with our revenues for the transports, and that was around $450,000. So the city was concerned that they weren't getting those revenues. One of the dollar reductions, though, was going to kick in after they got the $450,000, and then it would be reduced dollar for dollar, the extra 50.
This has been a Georgetown production. George Chat just reporting.